I used to chair a bunch of charity tournaments before I was a sports mom. And so my background in creating partnerships with businesses, it's the same.
That's
The
awesome.
ask is all the same because you're really tapping into who your network is and what you're going to bring to that brand. It's just talking to the parents and realizing, what do you personally have to offer these businesses? And a lot of time you have so much more to offer than you actually realize. That's what I try and help you uncover.
You are listening to the Beyond the Scoreboard podcast, transforming athletes into leaders on and off the court with host Coach Furtado. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Scoreboard podcast. Today, we are talking about a massive elephant in the youth sports room when it comes to the bank account. If you got a kid in club or travel sports, you already know the better they get, the more expensive it becomes. Between training, travel, and registration fees, families are literally getting priced out of the game. But our guests today realize parents don't have to just sit there and take out a second mortgage. Mandy Holmes is a sports mom who found herself spending thousands a month to fund her son's junior pickleball journey and multiple other sports. Instead of draining her savings, she used her background in marketing to build real corporate sponsorship packages for a youth athlete. It worked so well that she founded Sponsor My Athlete and the incredible Instagram community, Carpool to Contracts, to teach everyday parents how to do the exact same thing. Mandy, it's awesome to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so let's go to the origin of this. Obviously, this is a very hot topic in the world of youth sports. What sparked this idea and what conversations led to this?
So my 11-year-old plays flag football, basketball, and most recently pickleball. And it was getting to the point where we were spending $10,000 a month to support his athletic dreams. And it was just like, this is not sustainable. This is crazy. There has to be a way to offset it. And so the more I kind of started spreading my wings and into our community and asking people, business owners would be like, well, I would sponsor him in this capacity. So I used my marketing background to shift those conversations with businesses to, hey, here's how we can form a partnership with a youth athlete and our family to give your brand more visibility and drive new customers to you. And surprise, surprise, most of them said yes. And now he gets paid thousands of dollars a month. Everything is paid for. We are traveling all over the country, flights, hotels, everything has a sponsor to go with it. And so now I teach other parents how to do the same thing for any sport.
Right on. That's amazing. And so when you were first starting that out, talk about the research process and how did you find the right businesses to partner with?
Yeah, sometimes when people hear the word sponsorship, they think, oh, my kid needs to be sponsored by Nike or Gatorade. And it's like,
Right.
no, that's not what we're going for here. We're going local. And so I started with people that I already spend money with, my hairdresser, my gym, my insurance agent, my realtor, all those people that I've supported their business over the years. I went to them and asked for a few $100s in exchange for various ways of exposure. And they all said yes. And, a couple $100 here or there really adds up over a season.
Absolutely. Without giving up, some of your secrets, right? What do you think are some of the things that businesses are looking for in terms of that sponsorship? Because I know I've been doing my limited research for this, is that brands and businesses are looking more for partnerships now versus traditional sponsorships.
Yeah, I never use the word fundraiser or donation. It's not a charity. It's not a get rich quick, plan.
Right.
It's very partnership driven. And so small businesses are often looking for a logo on a jersey or a shout out on social media. Or a lot of times we bring our kiddo into the business and shoot some fun content for the business that they can use. Or we do an email blast to our team and plug a business. But it's really all about creating that partnership and providing that business with, here's what our family can offer you And it is a family decision. These businesses don't want to work with families where the kids are being jerks to the parents or
Right.
cursing out their teammates or storming off the field and throwing their ball. They look for families that have a positive online image, that are supportive of the community, and that are similar to their demographic, because we're surrounded by other families similar to ours. And a business loves that. They're like, "Hey, this is a great deal."
Right on. That makes a ton of sense. I'm curious. I'm sure this is a question you get asked frequently. Do you have to have a big following on social media to be able to do this?
No, not at all. I mean, my little guy has about 900 followers. I run his Instagram, but he does get about 500,000 views each month. And that's the number that I can show
Mm,
businesses. Hey, he doesn't have a million followers, but what he is posting is being seen. And that's what they care so much more about. If it's a
right.
natural fit, it's a natural fit. We're only going after businesses that we truly love, that we use their product or service, or that it makes sense. He doesn't play soccer. We're not going to partner with a soccer brand just for a
Right.
couple $100.
No, yeah, it has to be in alignment. So I'm curious, like, how did it that was he making content, or were you guys making content together before this sponsorship idea?
Definitely together. It is like such a family affair. And it's cool because it really teaches him like accountability. Like we partnered with a smoothie shop, and I'm like, you have to go
Nice.
to their grand opening, tape an Instagram post, and drink a smoothie there. And he's like, I'm tired. I'm like, too bad, we're going. It's accountability. You
Right.
signed the deal. So it's really creating those partnerships and then following through on what you're going to say. But just going into a business is like the best way to get to the decision maker. I walk in all the time, and now I have a little media kit about my son that I can drop off. And
Mm,
so, business owners they don't see that coming. So when somebody drops something off like that, they're like, oh, dang, this is somebody that has their stuff together. Maybe I want to partner with them. They're persistent. They drove over here in the heat. I'm in Arizona. So the
yeah.
fact that I'm out doing this in 110 degrees gives me lots of credit there. So business owners see that persistence and they're like, hey, this is somebody that we want to work with.
That's awesome. It gives you that street cred, and I'm thinking that it's significantly more effective to do that than sending an email, I'm guessing.
Yeah, the email is step one. And I teach this, of
Okay.
course, in the class. I have the exact email that gets you a conversation. In that first
Mm,
email, you're not asking for $1,000 at all. You are just trying to get an in person conversation or a Zoom call with the person that can decide if they want to give you that $1,000. And that's what I think sometimes parents fail at. They just send an email that's not intentional with like a big longer term picture, like, goal in mind, and you don't make that ask in that first email for sure. Sometimes it takes an email, it takes follow-up phone call, and then it takes a walk-in. And if you want the big bucks, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, and I think this is really important for parents to hear because one, obviously you're doing a lot of work, you're driving in the 110-degree heat to these businesses, and two, right, you're having your son's a part of this, right? He has to show up to the smoothie shops. It's a commitment. It's not a handout in terms of like, here's the money, just go play. Like there is a lot of benefits for these businesses as well.
Yeah, and it's not based on stats. We're not saying my kid is the best out
Right.
there. Like, it is not that at all. It is like, here we are as a family. We love your pizza shop. We come here all the time. Do you want to support our kid? Here's his goals. And they're like, of course. So it's just a much different conversation than traditional fundraising when it comes to sports.
That's really cool and it's innovative. I'm curious if you don't mind, if you can share any stories you have of any parents and families that you've worked with before.
Yeah, before I launched the course online, I did a focus group. And so I
Okay.
sent the course to 27 different parents, some
Okay.
that I knew, some that were friends of friends, and across the board, different age kids, different sports. And the average person got $1,400 in sponsorships within the first 30 days. One guy
Wow.
got 4,600. So it's really kind of up to you what you want to ask for and how hard you want to work for it, how much time you want to put in. I tell people if you can dedicate an hour a day, you're sitting pretty.
Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. I mean, a lot of times I'm sure some people will be like, "Ah, I don't have an hour a day." But and if it saves you, then $1 to $5,000 a month, I'm sure that 1 hour a day would actually be pretty useful.
Yeah, and if you
Mhm.
break it up into like 20 minutes of sending Instagram DMs and 20 minutes of sending emails and 20 minutes of making phone calls while you're sitting in the school pickup line, it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not bad at all, and it's honestly gets me thinking because obviously we have a foundation as well, and these are you're kicking around some ideas that we've been talking about internally, but you're inspiring us. Have you, has it? I know you work with parents. Have you ever worked with like an organization in terms of funding for the organization? What are some of those principles that are probably the same, whether it's an individual and an organization creating partnerships?
Yeah, I used to chair a bunch of charity tournaments before I was a sports mom. And so my background in creating partnerships with businesses, it's the same. I've even had a lot of families that have girls in like beauty pageants, which that's not my world. I don't know anything about it. Or I've had equestrian families, I've had skateboarding families, I've had theater families.
That's
The
awesome.
ask is all the same because you're really tapping into who your network is and what you're going to bring to that brand. I had a family that both parents were realtors. Like, that's a gold mine. You have such a huge email list. Let's position you as sending out an email each week with your recommended local businesses. A business will see that they can get in front of those 2,000 people on that email list. $500 to your kid, easy. So it's just talking to the parents and realizing, what do you personally have to offer these businesses? And a lot of time you have so much more to offer than you actually realize. That's what I try and help you uncover.
And at a certain point, it is like sales, right? You have to, sell the businesses your product. Your product is what you can provide them. And what are some other things? I know we talked about the Instagram following that he had, 900. What if there's I'm sure you've worked with families before where they don't even have social media, right?
Yeah. And sometimes people ask me, can I do this without having my kid on Instagram? Because that's a touchy subject. And I say, absolutely. But I also encourage people to start an Instagram for their kid, even if they don't want to post their photos. Just get the branding out there, show behind the scenes stuff. You can show snacks or what's in my bag, anything like that, and start following brands because then the algorithm will start recognizing what you like and connect you with the right brands that are out there. And what people often ask for in return, sometimes it's social media promotion. A lot of times it's logo placement, whether it's on a backpack or a warm up or just a t shirt. One of my biggest tips is any brand can send you their logo. You can order an iron on logo from Etsy for $5 for any brand. You just upload the photo, they mail it to you, and you can create a personal t-shirt with all the different brands of your sponsors on it for like 20, $25. So that is a super easy way to do it. If you're a travel team, wear that t-shirt to the airport. That's what my little guy does. He wears it everywhere we travel and people are always asking him about it and talking about it. So there's so many different ways. Facebook groups is another one. Sometimes businesses like an HVAC company, they love a few shout outs on community Facebook pages. That is huge, tremendous value. So if you're, working with a plumber or an electrician or somebody at your house, talk to them about a sponsorship. It's really wild.
That is amazing because I especially as small business, right? Pretty much everything we're talking about is small business, but even big businesses, everything, right? You have to have your marketing, lead generation, all that stuff, but everything is word of mouth at the end of the day. So if your son is repping a certain brand and they see that brand online, right? That's a modern way of word of mouth. It's pretty amazing.
Yep, it really is. Even people like attorneys, love this stuff. Realtors are just so easy. And I tell people, go to your local high school and look at all the banners hanging on the football field. Reach out to every single one of those people because clearly they believe in community first marketing. So it's like reach out to them and say, hey, we saw you support Desert Vista High School. Here's another opportunity to reach my kid. And then you talk about their journey. So it's like you just have to have your eyes peeled everywhere you go for potential sponsors because they're in your backyard.
That makes a ton of sense. I mean, yeah, I drive by schools all the time where those logos are on the fence that support the local Santa Monica, school district. And obviously, if they're spending money there, right, that's also an opportunity, because I know that youth sports is continuing to grow, right? It's huge. There's a ton of parents, and those businesses want to get in front of those parents as well.
Yeah, I've even had it where I've gone to the gas station at like 6 a.m. and every pump has a different logoed truck at it, and I take pictures of all the trucks. I'm out there with my phone, and then I email them all and I say, "Hey, I just saw your truck in my neighborhood, whether it's a pest control guy or a security system." And I say, "I see that you're working in my neighborhood. Here's a great community driven marketing opportunity for you." And it works.
That's amazing. And I'm guessing, obviously, when you started, right, your package, your sponsorship packages, your partnership packages, whatever the language you want to use for them, they're probably where it was a lower cost to support him, as to now, right? You have more brand exposure with your, carpool the contracts, his page, that I'm guessing you can charge a little bit more. But I'm guessing, some parents are probably like, and I'm sure you answered this in the course, which is why you all should get the course, right? Is how do I even start like pricing out what should we be charging?
Yeah, I always say start with $100. $100 is like an easy ask, and create what I call a sponsorship ladder. So it's kind of like having a bronze, silver, and gold option. It's you have the $100 option, and then you have maybe the $250 option, and then maybe the 500. And so people like to choose kind of that middle of the line one, but always start with a couple $100. That's by far the easiest. It's easy to kind of provide value for an amount like that and give people different options.
Right, having those different tiers. And I'm curious how you came up with those different tiers, how you like put a numeric value on, hey, you're gonna get this, like, or is there like a formula behind that? Is that like the secret sauce that we can't share?
No, I love to share. I work backwards. So, I remember our first tournament, I think it was going to be $2,000. It was a travel tournament. And I just started, I had a whiteboard and it said $2,000 on it. And then as I would get sponsorships, I would just deduct the amount. And, then we got down to, okay, we only need $800 left. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, it's two $400 sponsorships or four $200 sponsorships. And then I would craft my asks around that. So if you have a goal in mind, or, a $200 registration fee for the season, okay, that's two $100 asks. That's easy. So work backwards, based on what your needs are.
Working backwards, yeah, and that makes a ton of sense. And then it's like, well, I can offer this for X, and then it's honestly all creativity. So, is this as far as like this goes? And I know you did the business sponsorships in a previous life, but I'm just curious how enjoyable this like creative process is to help raise funds for your son.
It's so fun, and it's a family affair where he's like involved in all the decisions. He has to pay taxes now. That's not
That's
fun.
awesome.
Nobody likes to pay taxes, but
Yeah.
he's learning about why you have to pay taxes, and write-offs, and this can be written off and this cannot. Your stuffed animal that you got in Disneyland is not a write-off, but your
Right.
flight to Disneyland to play there is a write-off. So it's, very much a life lesson. We treat this and we tell him it's his very first job. And so that has been very rewarding. And I love just discovering new local businesses. What tends to happen, and this is cool, is you get one sponsor and then they tell their friend, "Hey, we're sponsoring this athlete." And then that person proactively reaches out. And that just happened to us. I had somebody call from a rage room. I didn't even know what a rage room was. And he was like, "Hey, my friend is sponsoring your kid and we just opened this rage room. Can we sponsor him?" And I was like, "Yeah, what's a rage room?"
Right.
So it's cool when businesses find success in it and then you're getting proactively reached out to. So that just makes me so happy that it's working.
Absolutely. And can you share the business's perspective on the value that you've bring, like any certain stories where you're like, he posted this and then they got like 10 plus sales or anything like that?
Yeah, well, the easiest is restaurants. That is like a low hanging fruit. If you're scared to send the email or you're scared to call, because sometimes people are, it's not scary. The
Yeah.
worst that's going to happen is they'll ghost you when you send a follow up. But restaurant outreach is so easy and so fun because you can position your family or your team as, hey, we're going to come in, have a pizza party to celebrate our winning season. You host all the athletes, so you pay for all their food and drink, but we'll bring the paying siblings and family members. So we're going to give you a restaurant of paying customers, a fun energy so that your other patrons see that, hey, this place is rocking.
Right.
We're going to post on social media. Every parent is going to post and tag and share. The business can post and tag and share. We'll send you some content for you to post. And so, stuff like that, businesses love. Usually, when we do a team meal somewhere, they're reaching out and they're like, when can we have your group in again? It was such a success. And then all the kids get to eat for free, and we get to shout that business out. Thank you for supporting youth in the community. So they love it. So that's a really easy one.
Right, and then they get all the exposure on social media, and like you're saying, like you don't need to have a huge following, right? Even just a small following. Like, what do you think? Like, when someone asks you, like, what do you think the minimum number of viewers a business would potentially want to invest in?
I would say if you can get your following to 200 people, that's like a good part that you can say, hey, we're building something here. We
Yeah,
have some traction. At that point, I would totally go in and say, here's what we're trying to do here and show a little bit of proof in the pudding.
that makes a ton of sense. There's just so many. What are some of the challenges that you face starting this out?
Just kind of people don't know this is possible. So some people were very skeptical and they were like, what? You can ask people for money? Like
Yeah,
strangers? They're so used to sports teams saying, hey, here's your registration. Can you Venmo me for snacks? Venmo me for the coach gift. We need 20 bucks here, 20
right.
bucks for parking, 20 bucks and it's like, no, you can get rid of all of that stuff. And so I, of course, launched it in the pickleball world because that's my world.
Yeah.
And I used to just teach all the moms and the hotel room before the tournament would start. I would teach them all my ways. And then they started implementing it. And we were like, oh my gosh, this obviously works for any age. I would say age 8 to 18, any sport, any ability, because people aren't super concerned with stats.
Yeah.
At this point, it's more about the human behind the brand and behind the sport and what you're creating. But yeah, it's pretty wild.
That is really wild, and it's really important at a time now where the cost of youth sports they're just insane. I mean, for me as an operator, right, we have to charge a certain cost so we can make our
Yeah.
certain livings. Like the cost of everything, right? That's no secret. It's gone up. It hasn't gone down. If it is going down in your area, then maybe we should all move there. But with that being said, what have you like? I know that you've worked with, equestrian from, you know, all different types of athletes. I'm curious, like, how this has grown, how some of the conversations you've seen, and like, what are some of your thoughts on costs in youth sports in general right now?
I mean, they're just so astronomical. And it breaks my heart when I see families say, we can't go to that tournament or you can't be a part of that team because it's too expensive. And those are the folks that I just want to be like, it's possible.
Yeah,
It's there literally every opportunity is possible if you get it covered. Like finances should never be an issue to support your kiddos' dreams. If you just have to invest some time into doing the asks. But with NIL, that's a hot topic at
right.
the college level. This is kind of the precursor to that. It's setting kids up with the branding, but also how to negotiate those and kind of get your feet wet. Because if your kid does decide they want to play in college or beyond or go pro at a young age, they already have all this stuff in their wheelhouse. And that's kind of a hot new topic. NIL wasn't a thing when,
Right.
we were growing up. But so now it's NIL is bringing a lot of visibility to letting people know this is possible, even at a young age.
Yeah, that's I mean, it's really cool that I mean, they're entrepreneurs. I When I talk to a lot of the kids nowadays, like that's they're interested in that sphere. Unfortunately, a lot of them just want to make passive income. And
Yeah.
the more I have, the longer I talk to you, the more I realize you really do. Like, I, when you first started this out, like, how many hours were you putting in a week? Like, I can imagine quite a few.
Yeah, when I first started, I mean, I dove all in. When I
Yeah.
saw it start working, I was just like, "Hey, bring in the money," you know?
Right.
So I
It's a
went
job.
all in. It's a job, yeah. So I went all in working a few hours a day, but, I dedicate anytime I'm at a sports practice, I am on my phone working deals.
Nice.
Getting that's why my Instagram is carpool to contracts. I'm driving the carpool, working
That's
on the
awesome.
contracts. So I dedicate certain times of the day because you need the time to invest in relationships. But then anytime you're out, I'm always trying to kind of make connections. One of my favorite things to do is go to local networking groups. And some people don't like networking groups, and that's totally fine, but it is an option and it does put you in a room full of local business owners that are looking for exposure. So I will go there with my little guy's media kit and a QR code to his Instagram. And I am out there making deals. I'm saying, "Oh, you own this business? Let's have a conversation. Let's grab a coffee." And those places are amazing for finding connections. So that's one of my secret tips is hit up your local networking groups because you just never know where your next sponsor is going to be.
It's funny you say that because this morning I went to a chamber event and it was my first time talking about the foundation side. Normally I've just been talking about my, the regular business side. And for this, the most time anyone's ever approached me was when I said we're raising money for youth, right? Similar to what you're talking
Yes.
about. Instead of it's an individual, it's a group. And I had four people come up and talk to me, and I was like, wow. So people do really want to help in the community. And it is, like you're saying, a good opportunity for them to get their business out and known.
Yeah, a lot of them just have never even thought about going that way. And then oftentimes I'll talk to a business owner and they're like me, a sports parent. They're like, "Oh my gosh, my kid is in sports. How did I never think about this?"
Right.
It's like a dad who owns an insurance agency and he's like, "Yeah, why am I not sponsoring every kid on the team's water bottle for the season?" I'm like, "Yeah, exactly." So it's really just about educating people and empowering them to go out into your community and start local. Once they reach a certain level and they're using brands that they love, my guy has like a pickleball paddle that he
Yeah.
loves. And
Right.
so he played with it for a couple years. And at that point, I felt comfortable reaching out to that big fancy national company and saying, "Hey, he genuinely loves this paddle. Here's who we are. Here's what we can offer you." And now he's sponsored by their gear for the whole year. So you build it up, but you start local. And I think that's what people just need to understand.
Right. Yeah. You just start with that $100 that you're talking about. And I think it's incredibly smart thinking about maximizing your time because I do see the parents all the time sitting in their car. Because, I sometimes am perusing around and the parents are on their car, on their phones. And, that's 1 to 2 hours, depending how long your kids' practice is, that you could just be messaging people, hey, and finding different people. I feel like some of it's a focus thing. I feel like you're like once you kind of figured out, like your brain has just been like every time you see something, oh, they can potentially sponsor kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like you're bringing awareness that this is even a possibility.
Yep. I even had a group of moms buy the course together, and the course is 60 minutes, and they watched it at a practice together. One of them brought their
Right on.
iPad, and they all learned it together, which is like so cool. I'm like, "Yes, girls, like the more the merrier." And so they had a charcuterie board. I think there was wine in their Stanleys also,
Nice.
but
Yeah.
they had like a whole group class going during the kids' practice. So that was cool to see.
Right on. That's amazing. And so while we're in this, tail end, I don't know how pickleball works in terms of sets. I oftentimes I have a lot of basketball minds on. So we talk about the fourth quarter. As we reach to the tail end of our podcast, just tell us a little bit more about the course. Who's it for? Right. Obviously the youth sports parents. But it sounds like if it's 60 minutes, it's actionable. What are some of the things that they can take away, and then what are going to be where can they find it? And
Yeah,
we can
it's
include it in the show notes too.
Oh, for sure. It's sponsormyathlete.com. It's a 60-minute course, and you get also all the templates that you need, all the Instagram message outreaches, all the phone scripts to do follow ups, all the email templates, how to ask for a team meal and position your team as somebody that they would want to work with. You get a 20-day plan of one thing to do every day to get that first $1,000 in sponsorships. You get an example of my little guy's couple media kits that you can plug and play all your kids' information in. There's like 20 different templates that I share. All of them are tried and true. They all work in different situations. So if you have 60 minutes, if you're going on a vacation, watch it on a plane, you can break it up into modules. There's 10 like 5 or 6 minute modules. So it's easy to digest. And I just hold your hand through the whole thing. And then if you want to book a Zoom call with me afterward, I'm happy to always jump on a Zoom and we can locate sponsors in your city for your specific sport. And I will just walk you through the entire thing. And after that 30 days, you'll be good to go. You will feel so confident and great after you learn all the secrets.
I love it. I guess I honestly have a simple question. I'm guessing you played sports growing up.
I was a dancer. So I was like the
Okay,
dancer
dancer.
cheerleader.
Right on. So I mean, just everything I can tell, there's so much that you're sharing that even if they weren't even doing sponsorships, like if they just wanted to get better at a jump shot, like talking about, just getting out and going and doing it. And I really love what you've built. I think it's really, really important for parents to be able to offset these costs because it kills me when parents like I had a couple of people that they were part of our scholarship program. We did this travel tournament to San Diego and it was 3 days and some of them weren't able to go in and watch their daughter play, their sister play because it costs $25 a day. And if you're paying for hotels and gas and life's already expensive before you travel,
Right.
it hurts. It pains me to see. So I just really like that there's an opportunity and that you're teaching this. So I'm really excited to share this with our audience as well.
Good. Yeah, it's so possible. You just have to get your confidence up and go make the asks.
Awesome. Where can people find you on Instagram? Obviously, you shared the website. We'll keep everything under there, or
Yes,
keep everything in the
Instagram
show notes.
carpool to contracts. So I like to reveal tips on there. I like to show my life as a sports mom. I put funny memes on there. It's just all the things that all of us sports parents kind of share in all the same pain points of cost, time, energy, all the things all wrapped up in there on my Instagram.
Yeah, that's great. I really love what you're doing. Thank you so much for your time today, Mandy. We look forward to sharing your course with our parents, and we hope that the listeners got a lot out of this and take the course and raise money for their athlete because those costs aren't going away.
Yep. And the cost of the course, you should easily get that back right out the gates. So hopefully that isn't holding anyone back because the sky is the limits for how much you want to get.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Mandy.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Beyond the Scoreboard podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share it with a friend, coach, or parent you feel like would get value from this episode. It's our responsibility to impact as many parents and coaches who are the ones that are impacting our athletes. That's how we create a ripple effect. So thank you for being a part of our community, and we look forward to serving you all next week.